Alright, hey everyone. I actually went through and kind of rebalanced some of the fights. I made things easier, uh, overall, and I still kind of feel like a little bit like there's some other things that I might want to modify, the way this fight flows. After experiencing this fight, I feel like this fight actually could be improved in a lot of ways, but I also found that there's a lot of like little annoying bugs that I want to fix. Like there's this texture over here is always misaligned. What the fuck is this? Look at this. It's always misaligned. Boom. Probably misaligned something else in the process, but alright, so now that that's fixed, I can like not deal with that. There was another thing here where if you get the secret soul sphere, you the Mankey never woke up and the door would just sit there closed, and then you'd open the door and have like instant Mankey in your face. There was a Hell Knight here that was facing the wrong direction. Just silly stuff like that. Like this and that. I'm not so sure I'm as much of a fan of this area as I was when I made it. I think this is also going to be pretty interesting because you get to see like when I was first making it and it was so amazing, and then after a while the new car smell wears kind of thins out a little bit, and I end up looking at this like maybe this was dumb. Maybe maybe it's I mean, it accomplishes the goal, but I had to make it so that the music didn't stop because it was just a little bit too off-putting. So the music continues while you do this sequence. There's some things that just aren't perfect at the moment, and that bothers me. Uh, in game, this front here is super dark, and I'm gonna have to figure out what's causing that because I swear I remember putting a blue light in front of this like 3 times now. I got it on tape. On tape. God, how old am I? On tape. All right, here we go again. And I think I remember, yeah, bringing it down to like either 100 or 150. Yeah, it was probably about 100. Whatever. It needs to be not quite as bright. I'm kind of surprised the engine hasn't like flipped out on me yet. You're like, dude, you have way too many dynamic lights in this area. You might only have 1,000 frames per second. Do you realize the gravity of that in a Doom level? I simplified this sequence a little bit so that uh, these doors aren't don't go down so slowly. They like move down at a regular pace, and then the two revenants spawn. It still accomplishes what it was originally supposed to do. It's just that it was kind of obnoxious, and it's not funny. It wasn't really that funny. Like when you play the game, when you play this level all the way through from start to finish, you'll notice that its flow is much different than standard Doom 2 levels. In that I introduced a sequence, sort of like each area has its own miniature story arc. You have I introduce you to this cool thing. There's the tower with the eye, or like like that. Like there's a big fight right here, and then you go all the way around, and you get to this part, and then the music changes, and then it's a fresh chapter in the story. Every sequence in this level flows that way. So I started to have to tone that down a little bit because it's not how Doom levels actually are supposed to flow. They're not supposed to be these Half-Life-esque style things. So it's going to be very interesting for a lot of people who are used to the way Doom actually flows to experience something different within Doom. So I got this. Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. I gave way too much cell ammo. Like even over here, I'm actually thinking, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna get rid of this cell thingy here. I'm gonna put a green armor there. That's another thing about this level that's kind of weird is that, oh man, there's two soul spheres right next to each other. Like, not next to each other in terms of how the level flows, they're next to each other in terms of distance. There's like a soul sphere here, and there's a soul sphere here. They're both secrets. There's two freaking soul spheres, but the entire like way everything's broken down, you come back to this area way later than when you were in this area. But then you intertwine and you come back into this same space again. So like, am I throwing soul spheres at the player? There's another, yeah, it's actually three soul spheres. Am I just throwing soul spheres at the player when it's not, it's not really necessary? So far, I think this kind of addresses most of the problems that I was having. Oh yeah, I had to nerf this fight. This fight was just too much, and I nerfed it. It's still really hard. Um, and I know I was talking about the other fight being so hard. The other fight is like kind of a joke now. Like I'm so used to it. I know exactly what happens. Maybe I need to reduce the number of cells. It's it's not that big of a deal anymore. In fact, actually, let me grab this cell pack and just put it here. You still get a nice shot of cells for the beginning of the fight and everything like that, but you don't get to have cells for the rest of the entire game. This area does a pretty good job of draining you out of ammo though. I'm a little less worried about the player having too many rockets than I am about cells. This sequence though is really hard. So it should be pretty interesting to see people actually trying to complete it. It it definitely ups the ante quite a bit. And now I'm fully up to this part here, and I guess this will be the part that I work on for the rest of the night. But basically, this needs to be a really cool vista in order for this to work because I switched to a classic song in Doom, the E1M8 song, wow, 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 and everything like that. And then there's just lots of dead bodies. There's no combat here. Um, it's it's gonna feel pretty interesting to see. This sequence is going to be really interesting, I think, for players and me. Like how people are going to react to this area is going to be interesting as well. And now that I toned this area down, this fight down a little bit, you get to enjoy it a little bit more. Instead of arachnotrons, there's just imps out here, and they don't really count towards anything, so you can ignore them if you want. I don't recommend that on black metal though. They'll still be throwing fireballs at you like machine gunners. So that's everything up to this point right now. Now this puzzle will be interesting. All right, guys. So this particular section is going to flow very differently, as I've talked about in the previous video. This section is more of a lull that kind of tells a miniature story. Basically, it's a story that all these assholes out here, this area was like a battle took place or something, and it looks like there was a whole bunch of people who tried to like hold up in here, and there's a puzzle in here as well, and it's a pretty interesting puzzle. I want to try and get more crates and stuff. This area needs more detail and it needs scripting. Come in, it's really atmospheric. It plays You Wanna Mate. I think you already heard about all that, like, I don't know how many hours ago when I started working on this. So you notice that I did something different with this door. I'm trying to communicate to the player that this sequence doesn't flow like the rest of the Doom level did. And one way to kind of communicate this is to throw a weird door. This door is not a common door in the Doom universe. Not in this engine anyway. It's a static door that's in an already open haphazard state, which also gives people a feeling. It gives a feeling of you're entering a place that is in disarray. It's a place that every it's not like you're entering an area that is now fortified. You're entering a place that shows signs of previous combat, of different, a disruption that had taken place before you had gotten here. And having a door sort of opened up haphazardly like this should, at least in most players' minds, create a feeling, a different kind of feeling that you would normally have when you press use and walk into a doorway. It's more like like, oh, what's over here? Like, oh wow, this is already open. Maybe I should kind of look around. Like, what's going on in this place here? This is pretty creepy. Like, what's going on? It doesn't have that same feeling. It's more like you're walking into somebody's house and the door's open. And you heard screaming, and maybe there's a knocked over chair, and you're not really sure what's going on, but the door's wide open and you can just kind of walk in, right? It's supposed to be kind of creepy like that, right? So this puzzle involves these floor thingies where uh, each of these floor thingies will have a unique symbol. There'll be, I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to set this up yet, but I can go over the gist of it. Basically, I will raise and lower these thingies on the ends of these to represent the direction that this compass is facing. All right, and then there's two rooms like this. So this room back here, and it has the same exact configuration. And you'll notice that there's a pentagram demon head, and then there's a baron, and some inconspicuous books that will absolutely not mean some kind of secret. The symbol is here and it's raised, and every time you flip the switch, it lowers the one that's currently raised and goes to the next one, and sort of represents it like it's on a spinning wheel, right? And it has to face the correct one. So once you flip it to the correct one on both sides, that's when you would enter into here, which notice that there's a demon head, a archvile head, and a pentacle head. You flip this switch, and if you have the correct configurations here, on both of these rooms here, you will get a result. Otherwise, nothing will happen. And you have to keep trying until you get it right. So the way the puzzle works is you have to face the symbol towards the pentagram head, demon head, on both sides, right? Because it matches the pentagram demon head thingy here. And then once you do that and you flip this, then this will lower, and then you'll have access to another switch that's up here. And in which case you have to pay attention, because this bigger wheel will have both of the symbols available, and you have to recognize that both symbols are different. It's kind of weird too, because when you spin the wheel here, you're actually also spinning the wheel here. So I'll have to be careful how I set that up. Yeah, actually, it corresponds, because when it's facing this direction, that will be facing this direction, and then there's that head there, and then there's that head there. So yeah, it should line up. Yeah, it'll line up perfectly. You face the corresponding symbol to the correct head, and then you flip this switch, which will then um, give you access to the red skull key. Now I'm also thinking of doing something very scary. After you lower this here, the pentagram head, I'm going to spawn an archvile who's a specter archvile. And what this is going to do is it's going to foreshadow what's going to happen to the rest of the map. When you solve this portion of the puzzle, you will hear a specter archvile somewhere in this area, and he's already going to be pissed at you, and he's already going to be kind of wandering around, and you're going to have to deal with him. Luckily, you will have plenty of ammo. because all of the bullets, all of the bullets. Upon solving this whole thing and getting the Red Skull key, that's when I put more Spectre class enemies on the way back to the ending exit switch. And that's that. The level's done. Or at least the level is done with you, not the other way around. I've made a lot of tweaks to the whole level, and this section is now just starting to become what it needs to be. But yeah, this is actually a pretty hefty puzzle for a Doom level. Most Doom levels do not have anything even remotely close to this. And once again, not only does this level flow differently from most Doom levels, but it also has puzzles that never happen in Doom levels either. This is either heresy or maybe some weird genius. I don't know. All I do know is that I really gotta stop burning my monitor in with stuff. By the time you are watching this, the Doom level will probably be in some form of beta testing. With that said, I shall call it a night because this bastard is almost done. I mean, this is getting really close. This is the very end. This is the tail end of the experience. There will be nothing but difficulty settings and tweaking for and just general gameplay tweaking. And also, I'm kind of interested in doing a the castle was here secret. That would be kind of funny. A little bit of a bitter pill at the moment because I was obviously here. I was here way too long. this level this level has been sitting here for a long time and has actually come a long way in a very long month and a half. So yeah. Alright, I'm out.
Back from the dead.